Fawzia, I've got to ask you this question. It's so important, and I've heard you talk about it so many times everywhere that you've been talking about the film. I need to know and share with everyone watching, listening, and reading this, the significance of the title of the film. Can we start there?
Of course, The Queen of My Dreams. Well, first, it's the name of a 3-minute short film that I made in 2012, my first short film, in fact. And I made that short film really at first as an art installation piece. And I was having a very public conversation about a really private struggle. I was trying to reconcile whether I could be queer and Muslim and still love Bollywood romance. And it was actually a friend of mine named Ryan Logan who said, I think this could be a movie. And I made that before I knew I was a filmmaker, and making that short, I mean, truly, really saved my life. And it got into festivals, and it was my first experience sharing my own work at film festivals around the world. And it made me think there's something here. And so I kept, creating more based on that experience. And The Queen of My Dreams, the title comes from the very famous song, Mere Sapno Ki Rani, the very famous 1969 film Aradhana, starring Rajesh Khanna and Sharmila Tagore, that iconic moment where Rajesh is in the Jeep singing to Sharmila in the train. And that song really stuck with me my whole life thus far. And I grew up dreaming of that level of romantic love and wanting. I'm a Pisces, so it's like all I care about is love and connection. And when I came out as queer, I thought, oh, okay, I'm not going to get that romantic love anymore in that way. I have to reimagine what that is or who's in which role. So I was like, okay, some woman is going to sing the Mere Sapno Ki Rani to me. And yes, I still want that and have that, but I also really I learned that the queen of my dreams is me. I'm the queen of my dreams, and all of us have to be the queen of our own dreams, because any kind of love or our greatest power and strength and confidence comes from and is rooted in self-love.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And from one Pisces to another,
Yes, what date? What date?
11th of March.
Oh my God, that's my birthday.
What?
Yes,
What?
you're my
Oh my
birthday.
God, you are my twin flame then.
Oh my God, we're twin flames.
I love that.
Oh my
Okay, this
God,
means we have to
obsessed.
meet. This means that we
A
have to
hundred
meet.
percent, a
Has to
hundred
happen.
percent.
So
Yeah,
let me.
Happy
So let's.
belated birthday to you too, then.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm 54 and proud.
oh my God, amazing. I would
Yes.
never have guessed.
Thank you so much. Well, let's get back to the story. It's such an interesting story because there's kind of pairs here. The story is set across 2 decades, 2 generations, 2 cultures, and 2 countries. I want to throw this to you again, Fawzia. Can you share the nuances of the backdrop to this overarching theme? The two, the two, the two, the two. Can you break that down a little bit for everyone?
Gosh, I mean, a lot of it, a lot of it comes from, in some ways like a classic diaspora experience of being from the East and the West, from here and there, but also always feeling like an outsider when you're in the West, but then also when you go to the East. And I think for me, I grew up adoring the women in my life, and adoring my mother and seeing her be a queen at parties and events, and also, feeling really different than her, and having conflict. And, when I came out, there was conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, conflict can lead to a wealth of emotions. And one of them is her anger and mistrust. And as for me, the art that I've made in the world, even if it's pure comedy, my art has always been a way of helping to understand myself and share who I am with the world in order to love myself more. And that connection to my mother is something that I don't know if I knew I had to heal and understand, but I was doing it. But truly, it's like, there's me and her. There's us, and she is me and I am her, but we're like this. So how do I solve that puzzle? And so that, and also within ourselves, I think there's a lot of duality of feeling like, as a Muslim kid, you're like, and maybe not just Muslim kids, but as a Muslim kid, you're like, well, I have this personality at home and I have this personality with my friends. I'm this person here and this person there. So there's been a lot of that I've carried over the years, but I really think the mother-daughter of it all brings the two to the forefront.
And I feel another too there is just the juxtaposition of this being a comedy and a drama, a dramedy. And I'd love to, to have some insight around, this, the picking of this genre to tell this story. It's a very serious story, but it's also, steeped in some great situation comedy, as well as some really poignant moments that really do make you cry. They really do. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for sharing that. And comedy saved my life too. Like, I was the kid in Sydney, Nova Scotia, who had the like smelly lunch and had the weird clothes. I didn't celebrate Christmas and I wondered why not. And I always felt like an outsider, and I just wanted my name to be Jessica, and I wanted red hair and green eyes, which meant I guess I wanted to be Irish. And I didn't want to be laughed at. And so when you don't want to be laughed at, one of the ways you to survive is you find a way for folks to laugh with you. And so I've been like doing comedy in life for years, and so comedy's been part of something I love. And I've written comedy, I've performed comedy, but also the thing is like we're not just one thing. And there is always comedy in the most dramatic moments, and there's always drama in the most comedic moments. And I think, grief is not just one color. Grief has many shades and many layers. And I think, one thing that I'm just fascinated by folks wanting to constantly put us in a box,
right?
And constantly tell us, well, it has to be this one thing. The way you make a thing, it's one thing, one genre, one emotion, one layer, one look. And I'm like, I am not that. So why would you expect the work I make to be that? And honestly, I'm inspired by like kids making TikToks. We'll watch them do anything, and it will, it's like, oh, you're sitting in your car and you're eating a burger. I'm watching you do that for hours at a time and giving your reviews. Like it's, I think, being our most authentic selves means embracing the form that takes as well. And I think also just tying that back to like the Bollywood of it all. I mean, and queerness, it's all sort of, being more than one thing is also, I think, inherently queer.
Well, I feel that really is kind of where I was hoping that you would go here, because with the 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, what that tells me is that there is more than one way to be right. There's more than one way to look at something. There's more than one way that we can identify as being, as individuals and as a whole. And I feel that, we got here with this conversation, which really excites me. And I want to bring Hamza in, so I want to ask you this.
I'm enjoying this. I just feel like an audience member at this point. I'm fine with that.
It's Hamza and Hamza. It's Hamza.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, totally, it's hilarious. See the duality of it all. So let me ask you, Fawzia, I want to kind of, parlay into, the roles and the actors that were picked. There's such an interesting, array of actors here. Azra, Hassan, Mariam, incredible, diverse acting roles, and they just fit. I'd love your thoughts around that before I say hello to the fabulous Hamza.
Well, there's something, because I center women or, gender expansive people in my work. I want them to have awesome roles. For years we've seen, women be the sidekick, I mean, and women sort of be the prop, or women be the the sexual object. And I love women at the center. It's not time, it just is. You know what I mean? And so that's been really, really important to me, is centering people who are not typically at the center. And also, I didn't really want anyone to be a villain in this film. Like, in some ways, maybe we're all the villain. At some point, we're all the bad guy. At some point, we're the ones creating the conflict. So that was important. And then, I knew this film, for it to work, it had to have incredible actors. And I honestly, I cannot imagine anyone else being in any of these roles. And it's like the acting, and it's the chemistry, it's the commitment, it's also and it's the experience, it's the knowledge, and the authenticity that they all brought. And in fact, Hamza was the first person cast in this women-centered film.
How interesting is that? And that's the big question I want to ask Hamza. What was it about this story that's extremely female-centric, mother-daughter love, story, so to speak? What was it about the role that you play here and the overarching, storyline that really excited you to want to be a part of this, Hamza?
After watching the movie, I feel like my answer, it's got a little bit more nuance to it, but instinctually, when I first read it, it was just, my, like, I grew up in a different generation than my parents, and there's inherently a disconnect there. And, I've got a daughter, and she is currently and will continue to grow up in a generation that I won't be able to connect with. And essentially what I saw in the script is that, Azra loves her father, and there's this thing about the loss of him that she wishes that he would have stayed because he understood. And eventually one day my daughter's going to grow up and she's going to watch my work. And I just did this as sort of an exercise because regardless of whether I agree with or I understand of the situations or circumstances that she's growing up in, will butt heads, I'm sure. But I mean,
and she'll win.
She's yeah, no, but she's only 6 and we already have him. So but I put on camera and I try to exercise a bit of practice on, I'm always going to try my best to understand and be there for my kid, regardless of what the circumstances are. And that's really what drew me. I just wanted to I just wanted to practice of being an understanding father who just loved his daughter regardless of whether or not she saw the world the same as him or his family or anything like that. So that's really what drove me to it. That was reasons 1, 2, and 3 for doing it. And then reasons 4, 5, and 6 were, Amrit, Karachi, and Fawzia. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Need we say more?
Yeah. No.
Right. Right. So I want to ask you this for, all the men out there, I have to ask this question. And for, all of them out there who should go out and watch this film, what would you like to share about the importance of this film that you've experienced being in it and then watching it, that you hope that they will want to come watch it because of that?
I mean, for men and women, but yeah, your parents aren't heroes. They're just people. They're just trying to figure it out. They're living for the first time just like you. Don't put them on a pedestal and don't put that much pressure on them either. They're just trying to figure it out. They don't owe you anything, just like you don't owe them anything. If it's in you, love them. If they loved you, love them back. Try to be deliberate about it. Don't do anything arbitrarily. be deliberate in the lives of the people that you care about. Pay attention and, you know, try to have a good time. You know, note to self, don't take it too seriously, but yeah. And yeah, just try to be, you know, a good rule of thumb in any case, just try to be more empathetic and put yourself in their position. And ultimately, like, yeah, you really do want to put yourself in those shoes. Like, if it was you, how would you want your parents to have reacted? Like, if it was you, I mean, without getting too, fuck it, like, sorry, but like, yeah, let's get personal about this. I was with my kid recently, and she was yelling at me, and I yelled back, and I was just like, my kid gets to yell. I realized that I'm just like, well, I got yelled at as well. I mean, it was a different time and everything like that. So like, we didn't call it child abuse. What did we call it? Parenting. You know what I mean? But it was just like in those moments, I would have loved if they didn't yell. Like when I yelled and I was a kid and didn't understand, I didn't understand that why they were yelling back. And so like now when I saw it, I just saw my kid as the younger version of me who's just screaming at the top of her lungs, wanting to be held or understood or anything like that. And I was just like, ooh, okay, okay. Now we get to look at that, and you know, now we get to go and apologize and be just like, hey, sorry, daddy was yelling because daddy doesn't like being yelled at because daddy was yelled at a lot.
Right.
But you know, ultimately, I'm the grown-up now. I don't get to do that. And no matter how much revenge I want for the things that I was put through, I can't get that time back. The only way I can get that time back is to share those experiences with her and hopefully erase or correct those like generational issues or cycles of abuse or whatever you want to call them. You know, and not to get to like therapeutic or anything like that, but it really is the best way to forgive your parents is to not repeat those mistakes that you're angry about, that I am currently angry about, and that I wish didn't happen. But like, what am I gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? These immigrants who, you know, were thrust into circumstances that they didn't have any idea of either. They were just going about their lives the way that they thought, yeah, let's have 4 kids, let's move to Canada, let's whatever, you know? They were dealing with situations that I could never relate with, and now dealing with situations that my parents can't relate with, and my kid can't, and so on and so forth. So to be cognizant of that delineation, but also empathetic that at one time or another, it was me as well needing that hug, and one time or another, it was me who was denied that hug too. So just hug the people you love more.
Absolutely. You know, I'm so happy that you shared that. And it's interesting because a huge part of what we go through as South Asians specifically is, you know, just the permission to allow ourselves the things that we feel are important to us, and also giving space to our parents, which was a big one I had to learn, because their toolbox for life was different than mine. And I think that's how we, you know, start dealing with forgiving them. You know, that's the big thing I've learned. I got to ask you this. Azra is a lesbian in the film, something that is still so difficult for women from our culture to come out as. Men as well, but we're dealing with a film that's dealing with, you know, women. What through this film is being said about that you know, hope everyone will get? Fawzia and Hamza, I want to throw this to both of you. What is it that you want people to get there?
I mean, I have a few answers. I think one of them is that being queer, being a lesbian, it's of course, it's a essential part of who we are and threaded through everything. But also, it doesn't mean that we're suddenly different than you. It doesn't suddenly change the DNA. And part of the intent of casting the same actor as mother and daughter is to literalize that, to visualize that, because it's true. One of the greatest things I learned about my mom was how similar I am. And once and we look different. I look like this. I love to wear these like oversized jackets and she wears shalwar kameez every day. She wears hijab. I have this, you know, black and gray short mullety cut, and yet we're exactly the same.
I love that.
And so there's that. And so oftentimes people get stuck on this exterior, and then suddenly create these like these chasms and these divisions, but really what's in here, that spirit, that soul, that DNA is the same. And I think also, you know, it's a film that it's queer because there's a queer protagonist, but you know, to me, queerness is not just an identity, it's a state of mind and an outlook, and it means this expansiveness. And so, you know, kind of what I was touching on before as well, like, you know, the fact that there are these different genres, there's an expansive way for all of us to move forward. And that, I guess, for queer folks, it's like we can always see ourselves in the story. We've always been there. You know, it's not that we're the reimagining. It's not reinventing. It's just reimagining because we're there. And you know, as South Asians, we know. I think some of us know this, but you know, queer and trans people are as ancient as South Asian people. And it's
very indelible actually in our culture until
100%.
the British came to India and
you
tried
know,
to
the
change
British
everything.
ruined everything, didn't they?
You know, very, very normal. Like, you know, the word queer is one that doesn't resonate with me. I don't like that word. I don't feel that word represents the LGBTQIA community at all. Because I don't think there's anything queer about, you know, being who you are, being your authentic self. And that has been very much a part of the South Asian culture for thousands of years. So I'm so glad that we're claiming it back. And Hamza, do you want to add anything to what Fawzia said there?
Well, ultimately, like if I'm going to speak to that experience for me, it's I have no idea who my daughter is going to grow up to be. We're talking, you know, I have absolutely no idea. Especially in terms of, you know, you talk about identity now, it's so vastly different from just 5 years ago. So I'm going to think about, like, you know, she's young enough now that it's not really part of the conversation, such as right now, regardless of how prevalent it might be in society, but it's not really, you know, we're just worried that she is just kind and generous to other people and, you know, just is a decent human being. And I don't think the sexual politics of it all is ever going to do anything to diminish the amount of love that I have for my child, or that it's going to change my desire for her to remain a good person, you know, I'm my parents' child, so I want her to be tremendously successful in whatever field she hopes to pursue. And you know, so long as it's a doctor, lawyer, and engineer.
I love that.
But truly, like I come, you know, I grew up in the Middle East. You know, I'm from a Muslim family, so it's always part of the conversation. Even, you know, my parents had, you know, great feelings but mixed feelings about this film and or about me being in the industry at all, and there's always this tinge of how do you feel about that, and I'm like, ultimately, like, I'm trying to unlearn so much as the, you know, and collaborating with people within the community, having conversations with people like Fawzia, doing some internal work myself, and just really putting myself in that position where, you know, at any point, somebody could come out and I'm just like, would I love them less? And the answer is no. So it's in theory, it's easy to say, but I also understand the prevalence of programming within our cultures, within our religions that that look down on it or that demonize it, when ultimately I'm just like, can we just focus on treating each other well? Can we focus on that first? You know, it's so funny how everybody's having affairs in Pakistan and nobody cares about that, but the second something same-sex, relationship, it's the end of the world. And I was just like, I don't think that inherently makes you a good person because you're having an affair with somebody of the opposite sex. You know what I mean? So it's just there are these double standards and there are all these things. So ultimately, if the person you love most were to, I mean, to quote an outdated term, switch sides. But if someone did that, would you love them less? And if your answer to that is yes, you have to realign your priorities a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of people whose answer is yes, unfortunately. And I hope this film is going to help people understand a little bit more about focusing on, human relationships rather than what choices people make, because it's really nobody's business but their own. As we close out, what do you both hope the audience will get out of watching The Queen of My Dreams?
Love, compassion.
Yeah. I hope they have a good time. You make movies to, or I certainly do. I'm an entertainer. And I hope people enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
I hope they come into it expecting something that they can laugh to, that they can dance to, and then leave feeling that they were entertained for a little while, and then ask themselves maybe a question or two about how they feel on the inside and how they've treated the loved ones in their lives. And, just a small ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny, small little ask. Fawzia, do you want to close out with your thoughts around that? What do you feel you want?
I think, centering love, the power of centering love and looking to the past to understand ourselves, having compassion for those who came before us, recognizing that if we didn't know the little bit of history you saw on the screen during The Queen of My Dreams, imagine the amount of history you actually don't know about people all over the world.
Absolutely.
And to allow that not knowing to help fuel your compassion for people.
Absolutely. And finally, I have to ask you this question. What kind of support do you feel we need to push harder on for our community to get more support to tell real, authentic stories about who we are in all of our variations?
I think, I'm sure there's so many things we could do, but I guess just focusing in on film is encouraging folks to go to the theater, and I think with film and our stories, every ticket that a person buys it's like you're voting yes to this community, to these communities. And, I think people forget the power of, we live in, there's capitalism everywhere, and the movie theater is no different. Like every ticket that's bought impacts what people make, impacts what people fund, and impacts the kind of impact that we can have through art.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's just been invaluable. I feel that all the questions that you've answered beg like 10 other questions. So I hope that everybody goes out and watches this film, supports the importance of it, shares it with their family, their friends, all the generations in their families. And is there anything final that I haven't shared or asked you that you'd like to share before we close off?
I feel really good. I mean, go watch it.
Go watch it. If this movie makes a lot of money, they'll fund another story of the like.
Queen of My Dreams.
Queen of
Two.
Yeah, exactly.
Return to Pakistan.
Thank you so much, guys. What a pleasure you've been. Thank you. I wish you so much luck with this.
Thank you.
God bless.